My name is Laura Rodriguez, and I am a board member of Black Girls Link, also known as BGL. And for those of you who don't know, Black Girls Link is a women led networking uh, organization that in which we empower Black women both professionally and socially through sisterhood and activism. And just before we start, there are some general rules. Uh, Please be advised that this session is being recorded, and therefore we ask respectfully that you keep your microphones muted and your video cameras off throughout the session. Um, and just to give you a trajectory how this is going to go, we will start by introducing our speaker. Our speaker would give us a presentation on the topic that she will discuss, which today will be about financial planning and retirement. And then at the end of that presentation, there will be a Q&A, a question and answer session. So I would ask for you guys, whatever questions you have throughout the presentation, please do not hesitate to put that question in the chat, and I will ask our presenter that question at the end of her presentation. So it is with great pleasure that I introduce our speaker for today, India Thomas Johns. Tonight, as I mentioned, she's going to talk to us about financial planning and retirement. Uh, this topic is a topic that I am very emotionally invested into, and I know you ladies are also interested into, just given the economical downfall that we have experienced in this year, given the coronavirus pandemic. And it feels like in our community, we don't get the information that we need with respect to financial planning and what and how we should handle our money. Um, and this session and this series as a whole will give us the opportunity to get that information, that important education we need. But just to give you a little bit of background about India, India is a financial advisor. She's an author and also a speaker. She comes with 17 years of experience in the financial industry. She currently works for Northwestern Mutual. Um, India is extremely prolific in her line of work. She has won the Peak Award in her field 3 years in a row, and she is the only Black woman to win that award for the last 3 years. In addition, she's also only been at her company for the last 7 months, and she has managed to be one of the top advisors in less than a year during this global pandemic. So that is extremely amazing, and we are very lucky to have her. So without further ado, I welcome you, our speaker for tonight, India Thomas John.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for coming and joining us. First, I want to say thank you to Laura for your organization, and just really, really thank you for Black Girls Link for providing this series, because anytime than ever, it's so important that we focus on financial planning and figuring out exactly where we are and where we need to be for our futures. As you guys know, that during this pandemic, and always also like an awakening of prejudice and racism and systematic racism, we're seeing the big divide, and when it comes to where we are, where we stand, and also where our counterpart white people that we also know stand financially. And there's a huge gap. And it's basically because of that systematic racism why we are where we are. We weren't taught about how to get us from point A to point Z when it comes to our finances. And just to let you know, my purpose is to honestly get us there by one person at a time and by a group at a time, like I'm sitting and talking to you right now. I want to educate you fundamentally on how to get you from point A to point Z for where you want to be successfully in your future. So without further ado, I'm going to share my screen so we can actually start getting right into it, because there's a lot of information that I wanted to cover. So what we're going to be talking about is 3 basic financial planning strategies for women. And obviously I'm talking to women, majority of you guys are women. And it's very important that we as women really come together and start to really think about where we stand, because one, we take care of ourselves, we take care of our family members, we take care of our children, and it's important for us to understand exactly where we are financially. So Why is planning so important? So the reason why it's so important is because just like you plan for a trip that you're about to go on, you want to finally get to that destination that you feel so comfortable, so happy, and so accomplished. And in order for you to do that, you have to figure out exactly where you need to be and those steps to get you there. So I'm going to ask you guys as a panel, or not panel, but a group, what financial concerns do you guys actually worry about the most? And I'm really going to ask you guys to, explain to me what are some things that keep you up at night. And you can actually put in the chat and I'll just answer just a couple of them while we have some time. I'm not seeing it yet, excuse me. Let's see. I'm sorry, I'm having like technical difficulties here. I'm trying to see the chat and it's not.
So I have it for you. So
okay, great.
There's a few. There is retirement.
Okay.
Paying the rent.
Paying the rent, okay.
Paying off student loans once I graduate.
Got it, okay.
Paying off student loans, of course. Unexpected expenses. Home buying.
Okay, those are all like typical questions that people like think about and worry about. And we're going to talk about just a couple of things, specifically when it comes to the student loans. I'm going to brush on that a little bit, but it's going to be addressed further in the series. So I believe another speaker is going to be talking about that a little bit more in depth, okay?
India, just sorry not to cut you off, just two people responded. They said, in essence, not saving enough money for retirement and being an entrepreneur and making sure that I'm financially okay in the future.
Got it, makes sense. All of those are typical concerns that people have. And again, we're going to be addressing some of those, and some of those that you have questions about specifically, you can always ask me either after we're done or, personally. So basically, just like you guys said, it comes to retirement, building a home, purchasing a home, student loans, all of those things are things that you want to take care of within this, I guess you can say 20, 30, 40 years of your time left on this earth. And the good thing about being a woman is the fact that we are going to be around for a very long time. As you can see, it says here that at 65 today, that has 50% chance that you're going to live to age 90. And it's actually probably going to be even longer than that because you're a woman. So the two things that you're going to have to worry about is your health. As we get older, just as human beings, we become more unhealthy, because, your body starts to break down, things of that nature. And then also, you have to think about outliving your income. So those are some concerns that a lot of people have and you guys expressed. So being a woman, it's so important that you have an understanding of your finances. Sometimes being married, people think like, oh, well, my husband takes care of that. But statistically, most men don't have an understanding, and I should say not don't have an understanding, but have an underestimated understanding of the longevity of how long their funds are going to last. And because we outlive men, either one, we are going to outlive them, so therefore we need to know our finances. And two, if we ever get divorced or separated from our spouse or significant other, we still have to have that fundamental understanding of where we are financially. So we also have to figure out, raising kids, if you want to raise kids, if you have them already. And then also, if you're in that sandwich generation, you may be raising children and also concerned about possibly taking care of your parents. So what's involved in basically doing financial planning? It's three things. The first one is protecting against the unexpected that happens. And if anything this year has taught us during COVID-19 is that unexpected stuff does happen all the time. They say ish happens all the time. So you have to be prepared for that. Two is having savings and investing for your future goals. And three is to preserve what works and make sure that what you have built over time is going to last you pretty much for the rest of your life and have you in that safe and comfortable lifestyle mentality that you have. So also what foundational thing that you actually have to worry about and think about is having emergency fund. Having an emergency fund is so important, guys. It's so, so important. It's a part of that foundation that you need to build your financial empire. When you have at least not 6 months of your income, but 6 months of your expenses, and your expenses come from that makes up your rent, your mortgage, your student loan costs, I mean, everything. Even when you go out, I need you to actually put that into a budget. And when you figure out that number, that magic number, you should have at least 3 to 6 months. And the reason why I say 3 months is because if you are living with someone or have a significant other, both of you could have 3 months, which makes up 6 months. But if you're by yourself, you would need 6 months of your expenses and not your income. Also, your concerns, they were saying, with paying down debt. Like I said, I'm just going to brush on this because there are going to be other professionals telling you about how to get deep involved in all 4 of these things. So it's also good to make sure you pay off your debt. Also, really, really develop a realistic budget for yourself, okay? The reason why I say realistic is because it's all relative. My expenses might not make sense to your expenses, but it's also about the quality of life that you have, which is very important for you. So therefore, your budget has to be yours and not someone else's. The next one is take advantage of the student loan tax relief. I do want to actually just say really quick about that is that there is a deferment that's going on right now for federal student loans. So make sure you guys take advantage of it. And the reason why I say take advantage of it is because when you have a student loan through the federal government, they are putting in it deferred. Most of the time when something's deferred, that means that you're still having compounded interest on it, but the interest right now is 0%. So I really urge you guys to take advantage of being able to pay off or pay towards the principal. There's not going to be any time like this in our lives that we'll be able to take advantage of paying the principal instead of taking care of the interest that's compounded on a daily basis. And the last one is basically making sure that you exceed your payments when it comes to paying down your debt. So we're going to talk about the first strategy. The first strategy is risk management. Risk management is basically taking care of those things that you can't control, okay? We can't control, God forbid, if someone was to contract COVID or getting sick or being injured or even passing away early. Those things we can't prevent from happening, but we can plan for those things to happen. So therefore, when they do, and if it does happen, we're okay. So what do you consider is the most important asset? That's my next question to you guys. Anyone care to like throw it out there to see what is the most important asset? What do you consider your most important asset? Anyone caring to be brave and answer that question?
I received 2 in the private. Someone said my car,
Okay.
my retirement account,
okay,
house.
Okay, those are all reasonable and pretty standard answers. But just to let you guys know, the answer is actually you. You and your earning potential is the most important asset that you have. So if you're earning about $40,000 to $50,000 from now until retirement, do you realize that you are actually worth over $1.5 million? That's how much you earn, especially if you don't do anything more than the regular $50,000 of your income and don't increase, and also don't consider, inflation. You are worth $1.5 million. So, and that's just the beginning. So that's just letting you know that as you get older, as inflation continues to increase, you're going to be worth more than that. So I need you to understand that because you are so worth and you're the most invaluable asset, you have to protect that asset. And that asset is basically what you earn. What you earn is going to basically be able to fund, getting your house, fund having your business, and also fund your retirement. And if you can't do that, if you can't work and earn money, that's going to put a detriment on all of those plans that you have for your future. So a lot of people will say, okay, well, India, I have disability through work. And that's the mistake a lot of people have. Great that you have it through work, but most employers will cover you about 60%. And that's pre-taxed. So actually, after it's taxed, you're actually walking away with 40 to 45% of your income, okay? So I don't know about you, but I can't live, and most of the clients that I have cannot live off of 40 to 45% of their income. So that's why it's so important that you get some type of coverage for your income that will take care of that extra gap of that 55 to 60% of income that's not going to be covered from your employer. And then if you don't have an employer and if you're a business owner, it's important to have that almost 100% of coverage when it comes to your inability to work. And that's what disability comes down to. Sometimes people think that disability is about, me being, crippled or not being able to function. No, it's not being able to do your specific job. And through the coverage that I provide for you through multiple different companies, not just Northwestern Mutual, what we do is to make sure that if you can't do your job and you decide to want to work in another field, then you can actually do that still while collecting benefits from your job not being able to be employed by them because you're disabled in that specific career. So I wanted to point that out to you too. So also the unexpected is death, right? It's important for you to understand that obviously, if you don't have enough protection through your work, because a lot of jobs, they'll just cover at least 1 to 2 times your salary. But it's important for you to analyze exactly how much you need to cover for your family. One person might just need $60,000 because they're living in an apartment and they don't have a lot of responsibilities, compared to another person who might need $2 million because they have 2 kids and they have a mortgage and student loans, and basically all of that amount to be analyzed. So therefore, it's a good idea for you to talk to me or a professional to figure out a life analysis for you to figure out exactly what you need for life insurance. And then I want to break down the differences between the life insurance policies. You have term, as you can see, you have whole life insurance, and you have universal life insurance. Term insurance is kind of like renting. It's for a specific amount of time, but it's a good idea to have because you get the most bang for your buck. Therefore, that person who needs $1 million or $2 million of coverage, it might only be about $50 or $60 a month for them to cover that. Whole life insurance. Whole life insurance is almost like having a house, okay? So when you have a home, you purchase that home, and that home actually has equity that builds on top of that, okay? That they can use to, get a home equity loan or do different things with your equity in your home. Similar to whole life insurance. Whole life insurance actually has something called cash value. Cash value is made up of dividends and interest that is built on top of the life insurance policy that you can use for literally whatever you want. A lot of times our community, Black community has been taught that the cash value is to borrow. It's not to borrow. That's your money, okay? And the good thing about it is having a term policy insurance, you can actually take some of that money in the term insurance policy and convert it into a whole life insurance. So therefore, if you have a term policy that's over in 20 years, before that 20 years is over, you can convert it into a whole life insurance policy that lasts your entire life. And that cash value that I mentioned that is built on top of it, you can use it for several things. And I'm going to go over that right now. The one thing you can use it for is if you have a business that you were talking about, you get a whole life insurance. As that equity continues to build over time, you can actually utilize up to 95% of what's in the cash value, go to a bank and get a line of credit for your business, okay? You can also use it for retirement too, and I'll go into that a little bit further. Universal life insurance, that is actually a combination of both the term and the whole life. A lot of companies will offer universal life insurance because there's no guarantee that it lasts for your entire life, because there are a lot of expenses that go with that. And as you get older, those expenses continue to occur. So if you take money from the cash value that's in the universal life, it actually can affect the length of how long the policy will last. So that's why having a term policy, having a term policy and a whole life insurance policy is like your best bet. So the last thing about the risk management is long-term care. And the reason why I wanted to throw this out to you, I know you guys are like really young or not even thinking about long-term care, but I just wanted to show you that it's a good idea to have that in your latter years. I would say probably about like in your 50s, because that actually doesn't just take care of home care, you being in a in a facility, but it actually has someone coming to you. It pays for someone to come to you and take care of you in your own home as you get older. So therefore, you're not a financial burden or physical burden onto your family when you get older. So recapping, all three of the unpredictable situations could be disability, could be life insurance, and long-term care. So before I move on to the next one, does anyone have any questions? Because I know that was a lot that we went over just now. And I want to make sure that no one has any further questions before we go into the next section of our discussion.
I have one. Out of the three types of life insurance, which one is the most beneficial for someone in their 30s to have?
Good question. It depends on your circumstance. So if you have a lot of overhead expenses and a lot of things that you want to cover, and when I say a lot, I'm saying as far as the cost goes. So if I have a child or children and they are babies, right? I want to make sure I have enough. God forbid if something was to happen to them, I want to make sure that I have enough for my husband or my partner to take care of them financially, even if I'm not here. So I will want my income to be a replacement. And I will also want maybe my home to be taken care of. So therefore, that's also not a burden on them. So that can run me, or not run me, but that could be a cost of coverage for $1 million or $2 million. If we're talking about that range, then it's important to have a term policy, because at any time I can transfer into a whole life insurance policy, and that whole life insurance policy will be there forever and is going to accumulate that cash value. Okay. So if I don't have those responsibilities as a 30-year-old, I might want to look into a whole life insurance policy, because I don't have to worry about paying off a mortgage. I might just be living in an apartment. I may not have any children. So therefore, a whole life insurance policy will be beneficial for me. I hope that makes sense, because it depends on your life circumstance.
Okay. I have one more question.
Yes.
Well, someone has another question.
Okay.
I have whole life insurance for over 10 years now,
Great.
plus accidental death, as well as the value of my life. As well as the value of my life insurance. Does decrease at any point? Does the value of my life insurance decrease at any point? I think that's the question.
Okay. So it depends on the policy and the company that you're with. The value should not decrease. Sometimes your payments might be increasing, and that's something that we can also discuss afterwards, because you don't want to be a part of a policy that your payments are increasing. That is sometimes a risk out there, and that shouldn't be. Your premium should never increase, and neither should the value of your policy should never decrease. And also, I wanted to make a point that sometimes people just rely on employers providing you with coverage, but you got to keep in mind that, God forbid, if you ever were to leave that company, you're not going to be able to take that policy with you, because it's a group policy with that actual company. So God forbid if something happens to you while you're in between companies, or if something happens to you after you retire from that company, you're not going to have insurance. So it's important to have that outside, if that makes sense. Any other further questions that there is out there?
No, I think that's it for now.
Okay, perfect. So now we're going to go to the fun part, which is the wealth accumulation. So sometimes people might be questioning about, college tuition and funding for children that they want to take care of. So I brought this up because sometimes clients around your age and everyone's age that's on here is like, oh, well, India, I also want to make sure that, my kids aren't, being put through the ringer when it comes to all the student loans that I have to deal with. And that's true. So ways that you can fund for children's education is one, it's called a 529 plan. This is an investment with the stock market. And the 529 plan is specifically for education only. So you got to make sure that if you definitely want your child to go to school or post-school or post-education, or if you want them to, go to a trade school, you are going to have to go and invest into a 529 plan. Not going to have to, but this is one of your choices, a 529 plan. But like I said, it's specifically for college. So say if you're like, well, India, I don't know if I want to make sure that they go to college, but if they don't want to, there's also these two options, which is down here. So you can put them into an UPMA plan. Now this UPMA plan is also invested with the stock market, but this is their policy, their account. So this money is actually in their name. They can access it at the age of 18. It's up to you to tell them that you have opened up an UPMA plan for them, but legally they have access to it at the age of 18. So if that's another concern of yours, then you can also put just having regular savings and investments. But a lot of people will look into this option right here that I'm circling, which is the permanent life insurance for your children. Now, don't get alarmed because sometimes people think, oh, life insurance on my baby, like that's crazy, but that's the best option for them. Because one, it's not an investment with the stock market. Two, they get that cash value and that builds over time. So therefore, if your child is 3 years old or 7 years old, they have that time for that cash value to build. Whereas though, we are starting from the age of 30, which is still good, but their cash value is going to grow so astronomically because they're starting such at a young age. And God forbid if they ever have any health concerns that will not allow them to get life insurance later in life, you've already taken care of that. Also, you can give them as a gift when they get older. So you can say, hey, Johnny or Tamika, here is your whole life insurance policy. Now you're responsible enough to have it. This is what I did for you. And that cash value can be used towards tuition, all right? And a lot of times when it comes to you using the 529 plan or the UPMA plan, when it comes to having financial assistance, they will count these accounts against them when it comes to them getting additional coverage from, additional assistance from the government. They'll look at that and say, oh, well, you actually have 50,000 in your 529 plan, so we're not going to help you out as much. When you have the money into a cash value, they can't see that. So that's another advantage of having it in here. Also, it's no guarantee that, your child wants to go to college. So what if they want to, invest in some properties? They can do that too. They can take this money and just like you said before, or like I was saying, before, that they can take the money to the bank and actually collateralize up to 95% of it and get a small loan or a line of credit to help them out. Okay, they can use it towards a down payment on a home, anything that they would like and that you would like for them to use it for, they can use it for. So then I'm going to actually segue to talking about you individually, which is some people had concerns about retirement funding. And most people are like, okay, where do I invest my money and where's all of this going to be going? You have options, okay? When it comes to different options that you have out there, you have options, meaning you don't just have to rely just specifically like our parents did on their employer. You can actually rely on yourself and an individual like myself to kind of guide you on what direction you want to go into. So there's a 401k that most employers will provide you with, okay? This is an investment, obviously with the stock company, but you don't have enough, or it's not enough, but you don't have a lot of options when it comes to them because your employer has chosen which stock to invest in. So if you want to go with Microsoft or Apple, they have made that decision for you. And it's a good idea to invest in what they want because obviously they're giving you money, okay? So when they contribute to your account, they actually contribute to your account at a certain level. So they may contribute up to maybe 5 or 7% of your paycheck that they're going to add towards your account. So therefore, this free money, if your employer is providing you with that, take it, okay? Take advantage of that. Then there are also self-directed IRAs. There's traditional IRA and a Roth IRA. And then there's also a Roth 401k. So a 401k traditionally is when you put money into that account, okay? Your employer puts your money into that account. That's pre-taxed, okay? But when you take it out, of course, you have to pay taxes. Same thing for the IRA, a traditional IRA, a regular self-directed IRA. That's pre-taxed money that's being put into there. So when you take the money out, it's post-tax money. Roth, also an investment, it works the exact opposite. So after you get your paycheck, you put your money into that, okay? So therefore, when retirement time comes, which is 59 and a half or older, you don't have to worry about paying taxes. That's the beautiful part about that. And if you're privileged to have a Roth IRA, and a Roth is something, 401k is something that your employer contributes to. So they'll allow you to say, okay, well, after you get paid, you can put your money into that as well. A lot of employers don't have that, but some of them do, but they will not contribute to that, okay? They'll just say, hey, this is your option to contribute to it as well. So the last part of it is for us to talk about how to preserve the wealth that you've already accumulated. So this is a diagram that I wanted to show you guys that you could utilize and actually fund for your retirement. So first we were talking about the 401k. We were talking about the the 401k, which is your traditional IRA. Those are investments, right, that you put money into that's pre-taxed, and when you take it out, it's post-taxed, okay? Now, when it comes to taking money out of these accounts, we don't know what the tax rates are going to be when you're 59 and a half. That could be 30 years from now, 20 years from now, 40 years from now, depending on how old you are. So that's why it's also important to have a Roth IRA, because a Roth IRA kind of combats against whatever taxes are going to be considered during the years you have to take the money out. Because you don't have to take any money out of, you don't have to pay any taxes on the money that's coming out of the Roth IRA. So what I'm saying is, you and I would be talking, and it's like, okay, this year tax rates are really, really low. So now we can actually take advantage of that and take money from the 401k or your traditional IRA that has accumulated, because we are paying really, really low taxes this year. Then another year, you and I could reconvene and say, hey, taxes are really, really expensive right now. So we're going to take money out of your Roth IRA. That's why it's so important to have options when it comes to being retired. This last bucket over here is your life insurance policy. Remember, I was talking to you about the cash value that accumulates over time? Also, just to let you know, kind of sidebar, you can have as many life insurance policies as you can afford. You don't have to have one or just two, you can have as many as you can afford. And what our counterparts have done is accumulated life insurance policies because they knew that they wanted to have something to combat against the risk of the stock market. Keeping in mind, all of these things are connected to the stock market. Investments, obviously, 401k, your traditional IRA, and your Roth IRA. But a whole life insurance policy does not. So during certain years, like this year when the market crashed, some people that had whole life insurance policies were able to live off of what was accumulated over the whole years of their lives to take advantage and not have to worry about that happening at all. They waited after time and said, okay, well, I have money in my cash value, so I'm gonna utilize that during this time that the market is down. And when it goes back up, I'll let it recover, and then I can start taking money from these other accounts. So that's why it's so important to utilize as much as you can as far as what you have available to you, to be educated and say, you know what, as many options as I have, I want to use them. And the last part of this financial planning is making sure your estate planning is put together. It's so important to have that. No matter if you're 18, you're married, or have children, it's a very, very important that you either establish a power of attorney or make a will, or just make sure you have the guardians set aside for your children, God forbid if something was to happen to you. So in conclusion, the three main important parts of financial planning is risk management, wealth accumulation, and then also making sure that your wealth preservation and distribution of your wealth is as best as possible for you during the time that you would like it. And to make sure that your income and the accumulation of that income stretches for your entire life. So therefore you have that comfortable retirement and the rest of your life exactly how you want it to be. Any questions?
Yes, there are a few.
Okay.
All right, so the first question I have is, what is the best account to have with the financial climate right now? 401k, a Roth IRA, etc.
I would say all of them. And the reason why I say all of them, again, kind of going back to my slides up here, is the fact that no matter what, you should have as many options as possible, because no matter what, the climate is going to continue to change. It's going to be bad like it is now, and it's going to be better like it will be in the future. So it's so important to have different different accounts to make sure that no matter what's going on in the country, you are still financially secure. I hope that answers your question.
Okay. The next question we have, what should one do with a 401k from a previous job if they move to another state?
I would actually roll that over into your own self-directed IRA, because once you leave an employer, they're not going to be contributing and you really can't contribute either. And there's still fees associated with having that account open. So you should actually talk to a financial advisor and open up your own self-directed IRA, and then transfer that money, roll that money right over into that new account that you have open, or that you should open, and start funding that specific fund.
Okay. The next question is, would it be a good time to buy property while the market is still low now?
Actually, it's a good time to start buying property next year. Unfortunately, a lot of people are going to be, it's predicted that a lot of people are going to have a lot of foreclosures and short sales next year. And, you know, that's unfortunate for some people, but for people that are trying to accumulate a property, next year would be the best time to actually buy, because right now this is a seller's market. People are purchasing up homes left and right, but they're not going to be able to hold on to those properties next year. So next year is the best time to actually start buying.
Someone said, what are your opinions on CD accounts?
CDs, right now CDs aren't making a lot like they did when we were kids, or I should say when I was a kid, and you know, my grandparents were like putting money in CDs because they were making about what, 2, 3, 4%. Now they're at maybe 1 basis point, maybe 1%. So having CDs aren't the best option for anyone right now, especially people our age.
Okay. Someone said, I have a pension through my job and I have not yet started putting money into the 401k that my job offers. How do you determine how much to contribute to your 401k? And should I wait until I pay down all debt before putting into the 401k?
No, I would actually do both. Sometimes people are like one or the other. Always try to do as much as you can with the money you can at the time. So yes, you definitely should contribute to your 401k. And basically what you kind of decide is look at your salary and calculate the percentages. So either if you want to do 2%, 3%, go all the way up to 5 or 6 or whatever they will match you at, and see what you can afford to have come out of your account, or I should say your check, before you actually get paid. If you can afford 3%, do 3. If you can afford for 5, do 5. If you want to start off with 2 right now, see how that feels when it comes to getting paid, and then increase it from there. You can always have that option too, as well.
I have a follow-up question to that question.
Yeah.
Is the percentage off your gross or your net salary?
Your gross.
Your gross salary. Okay. Should you always up your 401k contribution?
Well, that's a good question, and I'll ask a follow-up question to that question. So when you say up it, I would say never go past whatever they're matching at. So if your company is matching at 5, but you're contributing 3, then yes, up it. But if you're contributing 5, they're matching at 5, won't go over 5, but you want to do more, I would say then invest in your own self-directed IRA, which is either through a Roth or traditional IRA.
Okay. What is your feedback about annuity accounts?
Annuities are good for people that are accumulating money at an older time. So say if I am 50 years old or 60 or even 70 years old, and I've accumulated all of these funds, and I want it to last, to have me have an income over, from now until I retire, or excuse me, from retirement into, my demise, then that's when an annuity is actually good for you. It's not going to really serve you right now because you're in the accumulation stage of an annuity. So therefore you want to be putting money towards something. And the best option for you right now, especially if you're young, would be, like I said, putting into investments or a retirement fund.
Okay. Is it better to save using your 401k instead of your actual hard cash? Since we're young, shouldn't we enjoy the money we have now?
I think you should do both. Yes, you have to enjoy life. Come on, y'all. I don't want y'all to think that it's like, oh no, you got to do everything for retirement. Like, you have to enjoy life, but you also have to think about your future. Because if you plan to be around here for a long time, you don't want to be broke like either parents or people that you know that are struggling. I actually have some clients that are calling me now, and they have to still figure out what they're going to do and still work at the age of 60 up to 70 because they haven't thought about what's going to happen in the future. So it's important to think about that. Even if you don't do something about it right now, you have to keep it in the forefront of your brain, because if you plan on being here for a long time, and like I was showing you before, that women are going to be living past 90, you got to figure out what you're going to do, baby girl. So yes, live. YOLO, like, I feel you, you know what I mean? But at the same time, you got to think about your future.
The next question, is permanent life insurance different from whole and term insurance? Do you pay back the money you borrowed from permanent or whole life?
So term insurance is for a specific amount of time, and that's term, right? That's what they call it, term. Whole life is the same thing as permanent insurance because it doesn't go anywhere, okay? So whole life will always be there. Permanent is the same thing as whole life. No, you do not have to pay that back. And that's why I said a lot of people will think that it's borrowed money. No, that cash value is yours, okay? And it doesn't decrease the value of the whole life insurance policy itself. So if you have a whole life insurance for $50,000, if you if you take your cash value out, it won't decrease and make the policy go away. That policy money is yours. So please, everyone, if you guys take anything away from this conversation, know that cash value money is yours. It's not borrowed.
Okay. Give me 2 seconds. The next question is, Beyond putting money into an IRA, 401k, or 403b, what else should we consider?
Investments. Depending on if you are a conservative investor or an aggressive investor, investments are always a good option too, because it's fun. You can really invest in companies that are making good money. And the only thing you have to worry about when it comes to taxes, when it's time to take the money out, is capital gains tax. Capital gains tax is pretty much 15% of what has been made after it's time to take the money out. So therefore, if you put $50,000 into a investment, when it comes to taking that money out, and if it's grown to an additional 50,000, so it's $100,000, you're paying 15% on the 50,000 that has been accumulated over time, on top of that 50. Does that make sense? I hope it wasn't too complicated of an answer.
You're only just for clarification, you're paying taxes on your
accumulated
and not on what you invested.
Correct.
Okay. Is it better? The next question is it better to borrow from your deferred or your 401k?
So when it comes to borrowing, I always like to talk to people through borrowing, because I want to look at all your options and talk about why you want to borrow. Is this a good time to borrow? And what are you borrowing for? Sometimes you can actually utilize any equity that might be in another place instead of taking money from your 401k. And the reason why I stress that is because a lot of times people will take money from the 401k and just say, okay, well, forget it. And if your intention is to borrow that money, then I will take it from the 401k, because you should have enough time to recoup that money. But just make sure that that is something that you definitely want to do. And I would want to talk to you about that privately to make sure that this is the best option, because there might be other options that you might not be thinking about.
Okay. And the next question is, how can I use my benefits at work better to prepare myself for retirement?
So definitely invest in 401k. Do it to the max that they are contributing to and then are matching, okay? Also, make sure you take advantage of all of the benefits that they have for you. So they are giving you life insurance, if they're giving you disability, take all of those advantages, but also have something on the outside of work when it comes to investing and also your benefits.
Okay. What is a good strategy in order to save for an emergency?
I would say the strategy that a lot of people ask me and I tell them is, you open an account that is not connected to your regular account. So go to a branch that you actually have to physically go into, open up a savings account, okay? And connect it maybe to, you know how you can have direct deposit? Put a portion of your direct deposit going into that savings account, so you're not even thinking about it. But if you have to take money out, do not have a card connected to it. Make it where so you have to physically go into that branch in order to take the money out. And that'll help you be disciplined and not thinking about the money. And if an emergency happens where you have to take care of something, then you can go into the branch and physically get it. But it helps you to kind of like think like, okay, do I really need this money? Is this really an emergency or not?
Okay. The next question is Gerber good for saving for your kids?
No. So the reason why I say that is because the cash value is little to nothing. I've replaced so many Gerber policies. It's ridiculous. One person had it over 17 years and she had $1,000 of cash value. That's unheard of. So that's why I'm telling you guys to like really look into some reputable companies that give you a significant amount of cash value for your babies. And Northwestern Mutual was definitely one of them.
Is long-term care insurance something we should get in our 30s or wait until a certain age?
I would say get it around 40, because your cost isn't going to be significantly different because you're still young and you're still healthy. But in your 40s, you really start seeing the value of why it's important, because you maybe start to take care of your parents, or other people that are taking care of their parents, and you really will see the value of what it has. Because you don't want to get a policy and then something else happens and you're like, I can get rid of that long-term care policy. You want to be able to have it and keep it. So I think having it around 40, 45 is the best time.
Okay. How can one determine the cash value of their whole life insurance?
Oh, you can actually get a ledger from your current policy, and it actually will give you an illustration of exactly how much is accumulating and will accumulate by any time of your policy.
Okay. And I believe that's it for the questions, unless there's anybody that wants to send a question or wants clarification on something. Going once, going twice. Yeah, I think that's it.
Okay. Well, thank you guys so much. It really was a pleasure.
We did get one question.
Okay, great. Okay.
What do you think about Primerica insurance?
Oh, Primerica.
Primerica insurance.
Yes. So they are one of the companies that I was telling you about that has increasing benefits, or excuse me, increasing payments, but the benefits actually sometimes decrease. So no, I'm not a fan of them, because I believe that a term insurance policy, you should be paying for that for the 10 or 20 or 30 years, and nothing should change. For whole life insurance, the benefit is that the cash value continues to go up and the death benefit goes up. For their policies that they have, one, they do not offer whole life insurance. That's one. They don't believe in whole life insurance, okay? Two, their term insurance policies always go up in premium every 5 years. That should be unheard of. And any insurance company outside of Primerica does not go up. So do I like Primerica? No.
Thank you. So she said thank you. She will
Sure.
tell her sister. I have actually a question.
Yes.
So when you have a whole life insurance and someone passes away,
Mhm.
does the beneficiaries just get the value of the life insurance, or do they
Yes.
also get the cash value of it?
No, the cash value is a living benefit.
Okay.
So that's why it's so important that the death benefit continues to go up along with the cash value.
And the cash value is free to the person who owns the life insurance policy.
Correct.
It's
Absolutely.
just free money that you're accumulating by paying your premium every month.
Yep, exactly.
Okay.
And remember, it's made up of dividends, which are the profits that the company gets, and interest.
Okay, sounds good.
Yep. And they're only, just to let you guys know, there are only 4 companies that offer whole life insurance policies anymore. Mass Mutual, us, and I forgot the other 2. I think it's New York Life and another company, but we're literally the only ones that really still offer the whole life insurance option.
Okay. I was just checking which one is mine, but
Okay.
all right, and I think that's it for the questions.
Okay. So I just want to say thank you guys so much for having me. I know we went over a lot, but I hope it was informative, and I hope it was simplistic enough for everyone to understand. That's really my goal, to really make sure that everybody is understanding and just kind of get your juices flowing for wanting to invest, and also make sure that your family's protected.
And thank you. We thank you, us, the board members and the founder of Black Girls Link, are really thankful that you would do this event for us and give us an in-depth understanding of how to financially plan for the future and how to plan for retirement. We thank you so much for this.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It was truly my pleasure. And thank you, Black Girls Link. I'm just so appreciative of this opportunity. So thank you.
Thank you. Well, that's it, everybody. I hope everybody has a great evening, and thank you for stopping by.